Hi, folks. Lou here, and I'm going to talk about something that primarily is important for fantasy role-playing games, but I have seen other kinds of games where gods are very important, even tabletop games. For example, I have a prototype called God's Will. Gods is in plural. And the question here is, are your gods omniscient, which is to say all-knowing, omnipresent, which is to say they're everywhere, or all-powerful? Well, Christians and Muslims tend to think of their gods that way, but that's not how many ancients thought. Uh, Many ancients, of course, had pantheons where there were many gods, and while there may have been a god who was kind of the chief god, none of them were all powerful or omniscient or omnipresent. Now, I ran across a word not too long ago, monolatrist. Monolatra, Monolatry is the belief in the existence of many gods, but with a consistent worship of only one deity. That's the Google definition. So if you can imagine uh, the Christians and the Vikings, and the Vikings had a variety of gods, the Christians had one god, and perhaps the Vikings believed in or worshiped Thor and not the other gods. And of course, the Christians might acknowledge that the Viking gods existed, but they would only worship the Christian God. And we can go further in these questions about gods and say, for example, if there is a god of magic, should the clerics in that RPG world have access to all arcane magic? And my answer is, in a magical world, would there be a god of magic? Perhaps not. And you can have other gods of particular things and ask yourself, are the clerics of that particular god going to gain some advantage from it? Maybe a big advantage, maybe a small advantage. And you can ask in general, how well would games do if there was indeed an omniscient, omnipresent, and all-powerful God? And I suspect not very well. It's better to have gods who have considerable limitations, as the Greek gods did, or the Roman gods, which are modeled on the Greek gods, and so forth. So, what else can we say about that? Not much. Thanks for listening.